Welcome to Scott's Weekly Sports Today, ladies and gentlemen. My dad is back today, and now it's time for one of my favorite times of the year, bowl season, where you want to spend time with your family and watch a lot of great college football all Christmas. So with that, let's get into the bowl games. So the first game out will be the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl, Troy and North Texas, from the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. I'm going to go with Troy here because the game is in New Orleans, and Troy beat LSU in Baton Rouge a month ago, so I'm going to take Troy.
Troy beating LSU was no fluke. Troy wins this game.
Next up at Camping World Stadium, the first of 3 games here in Orlando, as Western Kentucky and Georgia State head in to take on in the Auto Nation Cure Bowl. And I'm going to take Western Kentucky. I think Western Kentucky's had a tougher road to get to where they are, so give me the Hilltoppers.
I'm going to differ with you on this one. I'm going to go with Georgia State, but this is the kind of who cares bowl. But I'm going to go with Georgia State.
Next up, one of the better games coming out of the first couple of games is Boise State, ranked number 25 in the nation, go against Oregon in the Las Vegas Bowl. These are 2 teams that are happy to call to Las Vegas because in the winter it will be effing freezing in both of these cities. But I think Royce Freeman's the reason why I will be taking the Oregon Ducks. New head coach who they really like. Saying the win for the new head coach, Royce Freeman runs the ball really hard. Give me the Ducks.
Oregon has a quarterback back. When he was playing, they were 4-1 to start the season. Oregon wins this game, but it's a close one.
Next up, Marshall and Colorado State in the Gildan New Mexico Bowl. I'm going to give you one name here. Michael Gallup, the wide receiver for Colorado State, nominated for the wide receiver of the year this year in college football. So that is why I'm going to go with the Colorado State Rams over the Marshall Thundering Herd in the bowl game.
If Colorado State is good enough to get Jim McElwain a head coaching job at Florida, it must be pretty good. I'm going to take Colorado State in this game.
Next up, Middle Tennessee and Arkansas State in the Raycon Camella Bowl. This is going to be a very good bowl game. 2 teams that are pretty good. I'm going to take Arkansas State. They won a bowl game last year against UCF, I believe. So I'm going to take Arkansas State again to start 2-0 in their bowl games. So give me Arkansas State over Middle Tennessee.
I was at that game last year, and Arkansas State killed UCF, so I'll take Arkansas State again to win this bowl game.
And next up in the Boca Raton Bowl, as Akron heads in to take on the FAU Owls. 2 very good teams. Lane Kiffin's done great in his first year with FAU. And I think Jason Driscoll, the quarterback for FAU, I don't know if he's related to Jeff Driscoll, but I'm going to take FAU in their home stadium to get a win over Akron.
FAU at home, better team. They win this game big. Next up, 3 touchdowns.
Next up in the Frisco Bowl, it'll be SMU and Louisiana Tech. I did not see Louisiana Tech play a game this year, but I did get to see SMU play this year against UCF, and they look pretty good. So I'm going to take SMU over Louisiana Tech.
SMU has 2 great wide receivers. I think the AAC was an underrated conference. I think SMU gets this win.
Next up at Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg, Florida, the Temple Owls are heading in to take on Butch Davis and his FIU Panthers. This is a tough game. These are 2 very good teams, but I think FIU is going to play for their coach, Butch Davis, and I think FIU is going to get the win over Temple.
I'm going again with the AAC. I think Temple's going to go in there and beat FIU. I think FIU is not nearly in Temple's league.
Next up, UAB and Ohio, 2 8-4 teams coming into the bowl games. What a story UAB was is they did not have a football team last year, but now they're back and they are 8-4. So I think the story continues and UAB gets the win in the bowl game over Ohio.
That would make a nice story. Unfortunately, they're going to lose to Ohio and Frank Solich. Frank Solich is good in the bowl games, former Nebraska coach. I think Ohio gets this win.
Next up, Central Michigan and Wyoming. Josh Allen did not play as good as people thought he would this year, but this is his last chance to impress scouts before the draft. I think Josh Allen and Wyoming find a way to get the win over Central Michigan in the bowl game.
I think it will actually be a close contested game, but I think Central Michigan is going to beat Wyoming by less than 3.
Next up, Texas Tech and South Florida. Another very good game in the Birmingham Bowl, Birmingham, Alabama. So if UCF would have lost USF, this is probably where UCF would have been. But I'm going to take Quentin Flowers and USF. Quentin Flowers is going to blow up this pretty bad Texas Tech defense. So give me Quentin Flowers to impress in his final game in college and get the win for USF over Texas Tech.
I'm going to stay with the AAC trend. I think USF is a very good football team. I think they will outscore Texas Tech, but it'll be a high-scoring game. First team to 50 wins.
Next up, San Diego State and Army. Right now, Army is trailing 10-7 over Navy. I'm going to go with Rashad Penny and the San Diego State Aztecs. Rashad Penny's been one of the best running backs in college football, in my opinion. Very underutilized, very underappreciated. San Diego State gets the win over Army.
I agree. I think Army is not in the same caliber as San Diego State. I think San Diego State gets this win.
Next up, Appalachian State, who you remember beat Michigan back in 2007, going against the Toledo Rockets, who have been very good this year. I'm going to take Toledo and their quarterback, Logan Woodside, who's done very well this year. Give me the Rockets to get the win over Appalachian State.
This is a tough game. I think both teams are really underrated, but I think Toledo is going to get the win here.
Next up, Fresno State and Houston. Houston had a big win over USF earlier on in the season, and Fresno State was contending for the final bowl bid to get into the group of 6. And I'm going to take Fresno State. I think Fresno State's a better team here. So I'm going to take Fresno State over Houston.
Houston has a very good defense. They held USF, I think, to 24 points in their win earlier in the season. I think Houston's going to get this win again for the AAC, making them 5-0.
Next up, West Virginia with no Will Grier for them in the bowl game as they go against Utah in the Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl. I'm going to take Utah coming out of the Pac-12. The Pac-12 didn't get as much credit as they should have this year. They had some very good teams coming out of that conference this year. And West Virginia is going to be without their best player in Will Grier. So I'm going to take Utah over the West Virginia Mountaineers.
No Grier, no win. Utah wins.
Next up, Duke in Northern Illinois. This should be a very good game as well. Two very good teams. I think Duke is going to win this game just based on talent. I think Duke has a little bit more talent right now than Northern Illinois. So I'm going to take Duke in the bowl game to win the Quick Lake Bowl in Detroit.
I think Duke played better competition than Northern Illinois this year. I like Duke in this one in a close game.
Next up, Kansas State and UCLA in the Cactus Bowl. I think Josh Rosen's going to be the reason here. Josh Rosen's had a very good season. One last chance to impress before the NFL draft. So I'm going to take Josh Rosen and his UCLA Bruins to get the win over Kansas State.
I think Kansas State struggled early in the season. They got better as the season went on. I think Kansas State's going to win this one in a very, very close game.
Next up, Southern Miss and Florida State. Florida State was a surprise team to get in. I wasn't sure if they were going to after that loss to, after just barely beating Syracuse the weekend after Halloween. So that was kind of a surprise to see them in the bowl games. But I'm going to take James Blackman and that Florida State defense. That Florida State defense is just going to be too tough in this game. I'm going to take the Seminoles to get the win in the Independence Bowl.
I wish FSU would lose this game. I would love that. It would make me happy. But unfortunately, FSU's got too much to get the win here.
Next up, Iowa and Boston College. Iowa's been on a little bit of a cold streak in bowl games, but I think Kirk Ferentz is going to get this team back to where they need to be. Nathan Stanley's going to have a nice game. I'm going to take Iowa to get a big win over Boston College in the bowl game in the New Era Pinstripe Bowl. That will also be played at Yankee Stadium. So I'm going to take Iowa.
Iowa was like an up and down team. They played basically to the level of their competition. They were really up for games. They won, a.k.a. Ohio State. I think Boston College, being in the East, as much as I like Iowa, I think they're going to win this game. It's a kind of a home game. I think Iowa's going to lose, unfortunately. Next
up, Arizona and Purdue in the Foster Farms Bowl from Levi Stadium in Santa Clara. Jacob Rose, I'm going to take your Wildcats here, buddy. I think Khalil Tate's going to run the ball really hard in this game. This kid's been impressing me all year long. He was a potential Heisman Trophy candidate this year. So I'm going to take Arizona and Khalil Tate to run the ball hard and Arizona to get the win over Purdue.
I agree. I think it's going to be a very close game. I think Purdue is actually an underrated team. They give a lot of really good teams close games, but I do like Arizona in this one.
Next up, in the Academy Sports and Outdoors Texas Bowl, it'll be the Texas Longhorns playing in their home state, going to Houston, which is not that long of a drive from Austin. as they go against Drew Lock and his Missouri Tigers. Missouri, I'm sorry we got your offensive coordinator, Josh Heupel, as our new head coach down here at UCF. But I think that offense, Drew Lock is going to lead the team here. And I think Missouri will get the win over Charlie Strong and his Texas Longhorns.
I think losing Heupel is going to really hurt Missouri. I think Texas is going to, with the more stability of their coaching staff, I think Texas is going to win this game. It's going to be a close one, though.
Next up, Virginia and Navy in the Military Bowl from Annapolis, Maryland. This is actually at Navy's home stadium. So I think that Zach Abey, the quarterback for Navy, did very well against UCF until he got hurt. But I'm going to take Zach Abey and Navy to get the win over Virginia in the bowl game.
Is it because his name rhymes with Navy?
No.
Oh. I'm going to take Navy in this one as well. Again, going the AAC route. If AAC doesn't do well in this bowl season, my picks are going to be terrible. But hopefully they do. I'm going Navy.
Next up, Virginia Tech and Oklahoma State from Camping World Stadium. The second of 3 bowl games down here in Orlando. This one should be a great game. These are 2 very good teams. But I think Mason Rudolph is going to be the reason in this game. I'm going to take Mike Gundy and his Oklahoma State Cowboys in Orlando to get the win over Virginia Tech.
I agree. I think Oklahoma State has too much offense, and Mike Gundy has too much hair, too good a hair to lose. Oklahoma State wins this one.
Next up, Stanford and TCU, one of the better games before the group of 5. This is a tough pick. 2 very good teams, but I think that I think Bryce Love is going to be the reason here. I'm going to take Stanford. Bryce Love has done very well this year. He is nominated for the Heisman Trophy tonight. He will not win it, but he has definitely been a great player for them this year. I'm going to take Stanford and the freshman phenom Bryce Love to get the win over TCU.
It's a really tough pick for me. I can go either way in this game, but I'm going to go with TCU. I think the Big 12 was just a better conference than the Pac-12, so I think TCU gets this win. Next
up, Washington State and Michigan State. This should be a very good game. I've been a fan of this guy all year. I'm going to say it one more time. Luke Falk and the Washington State Cougars will get the win because Luke Falk has been too fucking good this year to lose in this final game. I'm going to take Washington State over Michigan State in the bowl game.
I don't appreciate the language. With that said, I'm going to pick Washington State as well. I think that they got too much offense for Michigan State.
Next up, Wake Forest and Texas A&M, 2 very good teams. No Kevin Sumlin in this game. The question is, will Jimbo Fisher coach Texas A&M in the bowl game? I don't think he will. So with no real head coach there, I still think Texas A&M gets the win, but it's going to be much closer than people think. I'm going to take Texas A&M to get the win in the Belk Bowl.
I'm struggling with this one as well. I think the instability coaching at Texas A&M could hurt them, but I still think they're more talented overall. Texas A&M wins a close one.
Next up, North Carolina State and Arizona State in the Hyundai Sun Bowl from El Paso, Texas. This is a tough pick for me. I want to go with my heart, but I'm going to go with my brain here and take NC State. They've had a better season. I think Ryan Finley is going to be the reason, and I think that NC State gets to win over Arizona State.
I agree. I think NC State is a better team. I think that they have played better competition. NC State wins this one by a touchdown.
Next up, Kentucky and Northwestern in the Franklin American Mortgage Music City Bowl.
That's too short of a name.
I know. I'm going to take Kentucky in this game. I think Kentucky's had a much tougher schedule. They only had 1 bad loss this year, and that was to Florida at home. But I think Kentucky will find a way to get the win over Northwestern because I just think the SEC has been better this year than the Big Ten. So I'm going to take Kentucky.
I think Northwestern actually is one of the more underrated teams in the country. I think Northwestern is going to beat Kentucky in this game, but it will be a close game.
Next up, the Nova Home Loans Arizona Bowl, New Mexico State and Utah State. This is a tough pick for me. But I'm going to take New Mexico State. These guys have been playing very well this year for their head coach. So I'm going to take New Mexico State over Utah State in the bowl game.
This may be the worst of all the bowl games. New Mexico State against Utah State. I bet you no one out there that's watching this has seen either team play. With that said, I'm going to go with Utah State, and I don't even know why.
Next up, now into the Power 6 as USC and Ohio State play in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl from Jerry's World AT&T Stadium. I bet Jerry Jones paid and ESPN to give him this bowl game. to give him more money in his pockets, because this could be one of the best games of the bowl season right here. I just think there's too much speed on that Ohio State team. LJ Scott and this, J.K. Scott and the Ohio State team is going to get the win here over USC.
I think USC and the Pac-12 have been overrated. I think Ohio State, as much as I don't want to pick them, I think they're going to win this game and win it convincingly.
Next up, Louisville and Mississippi State in the Tax-Slayers Bowl from Everbank Field in Jacksonville, Florida. Two very good teams. Mississippi State is without their quarterback, Nick Fitzgerald. So I think that's going to be the reason why Lamar Jackson and Louisville will get the win here. No quarterback equals no win for Mississippi State in the bowl game. So I'm going to take Louisville over Mississippi State.
I agree, Scott. I think Louisville's got an overall better team, and the Mississippi State losing their quarterback, huge blow. I think Louisville wins this one.
Next up, Iowa State and Memphis in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. I'm going to take Memphis. I think Riley Ferguson's had a very good season. And Anthony Miller, who absolutely blew up the UCF's defense last week in Orlando. So I'm going to take Riley Ferguson and his Memphis Tigers to get the win over Iowa State.
It's a little unfair. Iowa State has a really good season, and they're playing Memphis at Memphis. If they're playing on a neutral field, I would take Iowa State, but since they're playing at Memphis, I'm going to take Memphis in this one in a close game.
Next up in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl, it will be Washington and Penn State. Saquon Barkley's had a very good season, and I think that he's going to be the reason why I'm going to take Penn State. Trace McSorley's not been as good as I thought he would be this year, but he'll do enough in the passing game to set up Saquon Barkley. I think Penn State will get the win over Washington.
I agree. I think Washington's a little overrated. I think Penn State's underrated. I think Penn State wins this game.
Next up, Wisconsin, who is going to be very upset that they did not get in to the college football playoff. And they'll be heading into Hard Rock Stadium to take on Mark Richt and his Miami Hurricanes. If this was on a neutral field, I probably would have taken Wisconsin easy. But I think Wisconsin's going to still win this game closer than people think. That Wisconsin's going to get the win with the running game, and they get the win.
Both teams finish in a disappointing way. I think Wisconsin still has better overall talent. I think Wisconsin gets this win.
Next up, on January 1st, New Year's Day, first game out will be Michigan and South Carolina. Two teams that are pretty good, and two very good coaches in Jim Harbaugh and Will Muschamp, the former Gator coach. And I think Jim Harbaugh thinks that his job is on the line right now at Michigan, because he could be taking the Giants' job in the NFL. I'm going to take Michigan to get the win here. I think Michigan's defense is going to be too much here. I think Michigan will get the win over South Carolina.
I agree. I think Michigan's a more physical team. I think it'll be a close game, but I like Michigan by 10 points.
Next up in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, it will be UCF and Auburn. Again, I want to go with UCF, but I just don't see it happening. I'm going to take Auburn. Kerryon Johnson's going to be 100% for the game, and I think he's going to run down UCF's throats in this game. I'm going to take Auburn to win the game by 2 touchdowns.
I think Auburn is a better team, but in bowl games I look at who has more to play for. And Auburn has a very disappointing end of the season. They have nothing to prove against UCF. UCF has everything to prove against Auburn. They got a chip on their shoulder. They were left out of the Final Four. I think UCF goes in and shocks the world and beats Auburn by a field goal.
Hey, that's why I won here, but I just don't see it. Next up, the final game here in Orlando. Two teams that are very happy to be coming down, as Notre Dame coming in from the frigid Notre Dame winters down there as they head down to Orlando, Florida to take on Darius Geis and LSU. I'm going to take Danny Edling and Darius Geis and LSU. LSU's not been as good as I thought they would be this year, but I'm going to take LSU to win the game for Ed Orgeron, and LSU gets the win. Free cookies for everybody. LSU gets the win.
So which of the two coaches sounds more like Cookie Monster, in your opinion?
That would be Ed Orgeron, I think.
Well, I've always been a Sesame Street fan, so I'm going to go with LSU in this one. I think the Cookie Monster gets a win, but I think it's a close game.
Next up in the All-State Sugar Bowl, Mercedes-Benz Superdome, Alabama and Clemson, 1 versus 4. This could be a much closer game than people think. I think Alabama is coming in with something to prove in this game. But I'm going to take Clemson and that red-hot Clemson defense. I think Kelly Bryant's going to make just enough plays in this game to win over Alabama.
This is a really tough one to pick. I can see this game going either way. I think Alabama has suffered from a lot of injuries. I think they're going to get healthier. I think Alabama's going to surprise some people and win this game in a very, very close one.
Next up, in the Rose Bowl, it'll be Georgia and Oklahoma, 2 versus 3. This could be a very good game. The question that I have in this game is which Georgia defense is going to show up in this game. If it's the defense that we saw against Auburn the first time around, then I think Oklahoma is going to blow them out. But if it's the defense I saw last weekend against Auburn, then I think Georgia could keep this game a little closer. But I just don't trust the freshman quarterback right now going against Baker Mayfield. So I'm going to take Oklahoma to win the Rose Bowl.
This is another really, really close game. Really, two very good matchups in the Final Four. I really think Oklahoma's offense is just more consistent. I think Mayfield has more experience at quarterback than obviously Georgia's quarterback. So I got to take Oklahoma in this game, but in a very, very close game.
Now for the national championship, for me, it will be Oklahoma and Clemson, 2 very good teams. I think this is a tough call for me. I'm actually going to go with the upset here. I have a friend named Riley Carey who is a diehard Oklahoma fan, and I will not hear the end of it if they do not win. And plus, I don't really care about the Big 12. I just don't want to see the ACC win this thing. So I'm going to take Oklahoma to win the national championship with Baker Mayfield. Too much offense. And Oklahoma wins the national championship over Clemson.
In my version of the finals is going to be Oklahoma versus Alabama. Alabama generally wins big games. The only time they lose is when they're up against a really, really mobile quarterback who can throw. And in this game, I think Oklahoma is going to beat Alabama for the national championship. So I agree with Scott. We're picking the same national championship winner.
And that will do it for today's episode of Scott's Weekly Sports Today, ladies and gentlemen. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave a nice comment down below. And subscribe if you are new. And share these videos with your friends, guys. And I will see you guys right back here next week on Scott's Weekly Sports right here on YouTube. See you later, guys.
See you guys.